Brooklyn never truly slept. The streets were alive with the constant noise of honking taxis, distant sirens, the chatter of people walking home, and dogs barking at shadows that moved too fast in the mist. Emma Parker, 24, a graduate student, had only been living in her small Williamsburg apartment for 2 months, and she had thought her life would be simple. She wanted independence, a place of her own, and a roommate who seemed normal. Leila Thornton had answered her ad politely, claiming to work as a freelance designer. She had a quiet, almost delicate way of speaking in emails, the kind that made Emma feel both curious and comforted. Leila was pale, unnaturally so, almost glowing in the soft light of their apartment, and her movements were smooth, calculated, and quiet. At first, Emma didn't think much of it. Maybe Leila was just shy, or maybe she had strange habits from working at home. But there was something in the way she watched the shadows in the corners of the room. The way she would vanish into her bedroom for hours and then return silently with black coffee in hand that made Emma's skin crawl at times. She laughed it off, telling herself she was imagining things. People are strange, she thought, but there was a growing unease that she could not ignore. Tonight, with the thick mist curling in from the East River and the cold wind biting at the streets, that unease felt heavier, like a warning pressing down on her chest. Emma had just returned from her evening class at NYU, her bag slung over her shoulder, when she noticed the smell. It was faint but unmistakable, a sharp scent of iron that made her stomach churn. She froze in the middle of the apartment, her mug of tea forgotten on the coffee table. Leila's bedroom door was closed, as it often was, but this smell was not from food. Something was off, and the pit in Emma's stomach told her this was not normal. Leila. She called softly, her voice trembling. "Are you okay?" Silence. Only the low hum of the laptop and the tick of the wall clock answered her. She stepped closer, her bare feet cold on the wooden floor, and knocked gently. Still no answer. She tried the doorknob, locked. That was unusual. Leila never locked her door. Emma's heart raced. A chill ran down her spine as she noticed the curtains fluttering despite the closed windows and shadows twisting across the room, darker than the dim streetlight should allow. Then came the scratching, soft, deliberate, like nails on wood. And then a hiss, low and guttural, almost inhuman. Emma's mind screamed for logic. It's just the wind, just the pipes, but another part of her knew better. Something was very, very wrong. The stories she had once dismissed as ridiculous, the rumors of pale women in alleys, blood found in strange places, people vanishing, flashed through her mind. Laughter at those stories was impossible now. Her fingers shook as her phone buzzed. She picked it up. "Unknown number, you shouldn't be looking." She dropped the phone, her eyes wide, heart pounding. Then she heard the softest of footsteps behind her. A movement in the darkness. Emma froze. Slowly, almost deliberately, Leila's bedroom door creaked open. And there she was, Leila Thornton, her pale face impossibly smooth, eyes darker, deeper than Emma had ever seen, staring at her with a curiosity that felt like ice crawling over her skin. Her lips curved into a smile, faint, slow, but there was something terrifying in the faint glimpse of teeth that peeked out, sharp and unnatural. Emma's voice caught in her throat. "Oh, Leila, what are you?" But Leila said nothing. She just stepped out into the room, and as she did, the shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally around her, creeping along the walls and floor like living smoke. Emma backed away, panic rising with each heartbeat. The lights flickered and died, plunging the apartment into darkness. The mist outside seemed to thicken, curling under the windows and door like it had a mind of its own. Then a hand cold, impossibly cold, touched Emma's shoulder. Her scream died in her throat as Leila's voice whispered, soft and deadly, "You shouldn't have looked." Emma realized, with terror clawing at her chest, that her roommate was not human. And as the shadows pressed closer, swallowing her tiny apartment whole, she understood one horrifying truth. Escaping tonight might not be so simple. Emma's heart raced as she backed away from Leila, who stood silently in the shadows of the apartment, her pale face almost glowing in the dim streetlight that filtered through the window. The cold mist outside seemed to press against the glass, curling and twisting as if alive. For a moment, Emma felt paralyzed, her mind racing with fear and disbelief. She had always thought vampires were just stories, myths made for thrillers and Halloween. But now, standing only a few feet away from her roommate, she knew the truth. Leela was not human. Her black, shining eyes, her unnatural grace, the faint glimpse of long, sharp teeth, it all confirmed what Emma had feared. Yet, amid the terror, Emma felt a strange determination. She couldn't let fear control her. She needed answers, and she needed to survive. Summoning every ounce of courage, she asked, her voice shaking but firm, "Leela, what are you? Why are you here?" Leela tilted her head, her expression unreadable, and for a long moment, the apartment was silent except for the hum of the old refrigerator and the distant city noise. Then, softly, almost like a confession, Leela spoke. "I am what you think I am, but I mean no harm to you yet. Most humans cannot understand us, so they fear us, you. You are different." Emma swallowed hard, trying to calm the rapid beating of her heart. She realized that Leela's words were both a warning and an invitation. Leela stepped closer, her movements smooth and controlled, like shadows moving across the walls. "I've lived here quietly, among humans, learning, watching, observing," Leela continued. "And you have noticed. Curiosity is dangerous, but sometimes it leads to understanding." Emma's mind spun. She had so many questions, but the fear still gripped her. She took a tentative step closer, careful not to provoke Leela, and asked the question that had been burning in her mind since the first strange smell, the first shadow that had felt too alive. Why me? Why live here? With me, Leela's eyes softened just a fraction, and she gave the faintest smile. "Because I wanted to see who you really are. Humans are fascinating creatures, and some have a spark that makes them special. You, Emma, are one of those humans. You are brave, curious, and unafraid to question the world." That is rare. Emma felt a chill, but it was mixed with awe. Despite everything, she felt strangely drawn to the calm, almost hypnotic presence of her roommate. The tension in the room didn't disappear, but a kind of understanding began to form. Hours passed as Leela explained her existence, carefully revealing only what Emma could handle. She spoke of shadows of nights that stretched endlessly, of humans who feared what they didn't understand, and of the delicate balance she maintained to survive without causing harm. Emma listened, captivated, terrified, yet relieved to know that she would not be harmed tonight. By the time the first hint of dawn crept across the skyline, painting the mist in soft golden light, Emma realized she had survived. Leela stood by the window, her pale face illuminated, watching the city wake. "You are safe," she said, her voice calm. "But remember, curiosity always has its price. Be careful, Emma." Emma nodded, feeling the weight of the night lift slightly from her shoulders. She had faced the impossible, discovered the truth, and survived. But she also knew this was only the beginning of understanding the world Leela lived in. Emma sat down on the couch, her phone in hand, and typed a short message to herself as a reminder. "Tonight, I survived. Tomorrow I learn more." Emma's story doesn't end here. She discovered the terrifying truth about her roommate, but there are still mysteries lurking in the shadows. What would you do if you found out your roommate wasn't human? Where are you watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling stories, because you never know what secrets your neighbors might be hiding.